Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. I am Jeff Brickler. I'm the COO here at CAD Talk, and I'm thrilled to welcome my colleague, Rob Kirkey from 3Value. Rob, it's good to see you today. So we're going to have a great conversation about purchases, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about our agenda and our objectives.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion. And what we're looking at talking about today is how significant purchases are made. We'll use an ERP software application as an example for that. We'll talk about how folks typically do the evaluation and purchase of an ERP today and potentially a better way to do that. Objectives for today is that the folks attending, you get at least one idea, hopefully a couple ideas that you can use in your next major purchase. And likewise, Jeff and I can learn from your questions on the chat lines about ideas that we can use in our go forward as well. I'm going to turn my camera off because, as they say, I have a face for radio. Wanted to mention just briefly about my organization, 3Value. When folks ask what we do, we say we're in mission enablement of organizations, and specifically organizations that are in the manufacturing, construction, NFP or not-for-profits, firearms and defense contracting sectors. And how do we enable them to do their mission? It's the 3Ps. Process automation, and that's where we partner with CAD Talk, for example, in automating the processes to move information from CAD programs, from PLM programs, from PDM programs into an ERP such as Acumatica Cloud ERP. We also provide what we call affectionately the plumbing, the IT managed services that keep folks' organizations secure, have backups, have resiliency plans, and be able to take advantage of platforms to extend their business. We have customers from coast to coast. We have staff from coast to coast, and we try to do everything we do in a way that honors our faith-based initiatives of love, serve, care. When it comes to Acumatica, they've given us some recognition that we're grateful for the last 5 years. We've either been on stage accepting an award from them, or we've been a finalist for one or more of those awards. So we appreciate that recognition. You know, our title for the webinar today was Beyond the Demo, Evaluating the Mission Critical Applications to Maximize ROI in Acumatica. But you might have noticed on the left of the title screen, it said, don't worry, be happy. You know, when getting the ERP purchases, you know, we're looking for, like Reverend Al Green says, you know, some love and happiness. And who are we trying to enable to be happy? It's our leadership, it's our staff, it's our customers and suppliers, it's the government, especially if you're in a highly regulated sector, and it's your ecosystem, you know. And how are we going to enable each of these audiences to be happy? You know, in the example of purchasing an ERP solution, it's optimizing your standard operating procedures or processes, having real-time visibility across the organization, enabling and equipping your staff so that they can do what they need to do for the company to excel and to serve your customers. So talking about, like I said, the example of purchasing an ERP, you know, how does that start? Typically, it's one too many times that the CEO or a C-level person has met their tipping point. This is 3Value CEO, Nick Knight, and he's showing very accurately what would happen if there's a need created. And he's saying, Rob, go fix it. So I've now become the project lead to be able to figure out how to fix the problems that he's seeing. And with that, you know, I take a look and I say, you know what, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. Let's figure out what kind of requirements that we need So I go back to Nick and I say, tell me again, what are the things you're trying to fix? I'll also throw in the things I'd like to have fixed that are similar to that. And as long as I'm doing this, I'm going to go across the organization, typically throughout the functional areas of our organization, and ask folks, what are some things that are broken that are similar to what we're trying to fix here in the case of in this case, business processes, things that are taking too much time, data silos, that type of thing. And with my needs in hand, now the next thing I need to figure out is, well, how much can I spend on a solution for this? And so how do I figure that out? I go back to Nick. I say, Nick, what's my order of magnitude budget for this? So he tells me how much he's willing to spend on an ERP solution. I know my needs. I know my price. The next thing that I need to do is to begin looking at different solutions to meet those needs within that price range. You can see the priority for prices is very low at this point because he's already told me how much we're willing to spend, so I don't need to spend any more time on that. I've already figured out or believe I've figured out what the needs are. So I'm going to stop spending time on that and I'm going to start looking at solutions. I haven't written any checks yet, so the risk at this point is very low. So now I'm going to move into looking at solutions that meet my needs that are in that price range. And how do I do that? I check AI tools like ChatGPT and Copilot. I look at search engines like Google, talk to my peers, our customers, our vendors, and get recommendations from them. What do they come back with? Well, of course, they come back with CAD Talk as a invaluable solution to integrate CAD programs to ERP. It comes back with Acumatica Cloud ERP, and it comes back with 3Value as a solution provider that can provide that together. And of course, it also comes up with a bunch of other rabble that I'll need to sort through to figure out what's my best solution. So I've gone through and identified some solutions. Now I need to evaluate them and come up with a solution of choice. Although risk was pretty low before, things are getting real. I'm going to evaluate, come up with a solution of choice, and recommend that we write a check. So the risk is now becoming a high priority for me as I'm evaluating these solutions. So how do I evaluate them? I go back to the net. I take a look at review sites such as G2. I look at online chat forums like Reddit. I watch tons of movies of different solutions on YouTube. I go to the solution providers and publishers' websites. Does Acumatica have an unregistered copy of the software I can download? Does CAD Talk have additional movies I can look at? Does 3Value have any pricing that I can glean? And from that, I think that I got to the point where I know what solution I want. And because of that, the priority list of solution goes way down. Needs, there might be a couple extra needs that are in there, but still very low priority at this time. I've already addressed that. The two things I'm trying to address now are minimizing risk before I write the check for that solution of choice and making sure that I'm getting it at the best price. So to do that, at what point do most folks today contact solution providers in this process? It's typically right at the end of the evaluation. So they've gotten to where they either have a solution of choice or they're at a very short list. And they typically come to someone like 3Value or to the publisher themselves and say, look, I'd like know how much it's going to cost. Can you give me a couple days of demos, and can you give me a sandbox for at least 6 to 12 months? And can you do all of that so that it's configured exactly the way I want it? And how about you let me talk to some executives? A couple dozen references would be great. And then I want a proposal that pinpoints down to the minute detail what I'm getting, how much it costs, and a statement of work that likewise gets me exactly what's going to be done. What's the problem with doing that? You know, if someone's asking at this point a solution provider for a price, a demo, and a sandbox, the honest response from a solution provider is going to be for what? You know, they haven't been part of that process where you defined your requirements, where you put together a solution. So therefore, you know, whatever they give you is going to be a guess at best, and potentially something much worse, you know, if on the other end of that scale. So if we go back to our happiness scale checklist, you know, if we engage solution providers that late in our process, are we going to make everybody happy? Are we going to be able to get these deliverables? Quite possibly not. You know, there's a lot of risk factors to getting everybody happy in this kind of a process. You know, in most cases, if I'm looking at an ERP purchase, I may have gone through this process the first time, or this may be the second, or we've seen up to 3 or 4 times that folks have been through the evaluation. For most clients, we see this as either the very first time or potentially second. Because of that, there may be things they're going to miss. You know, the things that the art of the possible in terms of what could be accomplished. What other kind of problems did not come up during our requirements gathering just because we didn't know to ask those questions? We haven't been through this before. What kind of opportunities have we not even considered because we don't know about different technologies that may be happening or different product roadmaps that are going to have new capabilities. As we all know, AI has hallucinations, so some of its recommendations may have been false. ERP is an example of where solutions are in 4 tiers. And as you move through the tiers, you go through a exponential decimal place in price, complexity, and requirements to be successful. You know, are you comparing a tier 1 ERP solution to a tier 2, to a tier 3, to a tier 4? You know, and then are you looking at a whole solution? Have you considered that it's not just software you're buying, but you need to have that trusted business advisor who can provide the services that you need?